Take us through some of your studio now that you're up and you got your phone out.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so this is 24 channels right here on this side of the console. This is all my tracking.
What's up, everybody? It's Keef from KeefKeyz.com. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Mix. Now, today we have somebody very special with us. He's a music producer. He's a mixing engineer. He's a mastering engineer. He shared the stage with a lot of different people. He has done a lot of work. He's from Buffalo, New York. If any of you are in the studio scene, the music scene, and you're online and you're not under a rock, then you probably have been following or noticed the transformation that this man has been doing, building this lovely studio that he's actually sitting in now. I want to introduce to everybody Weezna. What's up, Weezna?
What's up, man?
And if y'all don't know, this is Weezna. He's from True Sound Studios.
That's right.
If you don't follow him, we're going to put the description in the description, the link to his YouTube channel, to his Snapchat, to his Instagram, so you all can find him out and you all can follow along the process and the journey that he's been doing. And if you haven't followed him up until this point, you can go back and watch and follow every single thing he has done up until this point. That will greatly help you out if you're interested. So Weezna, what's up, man?
What's up, man? This is awesome. This is cool. You also win #1 spot for interview at this new studio because, if I turn this camera around a little bit, you're gonna see it doesn't look quite like this. Still a little bit of a construction zone, but yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, listen, man, the pleasure is all mine. So real quick, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and just about how you kind of got into the music scene?
Yeah, so my dad was a drummer in a band called Flyer. And this is, probably 30-some years ago. He got signed to a label and had a #1 on the Billboard charts. And then he had his drum kit set up in the basement always. So one day I started playing drums, and then I wanted to be in a band. And of course, I wanted to record. So it's almost been 21 years now. And so I played drums, keys, I started producing and then mixing, and then people want to mix and master. And, it turned into this. And everyone, always asks, like, oh, that's so amazing that you have this studio. It's like, well, this has been 20 years. So, things over time, obviously happen for a reason, but hard work. And, maybe one day you can have this. So, and then I pretty much started a YouTube channel because, people would ask me the same question or same types of questions. And, you can't explain to somebody how to use a compressor, EQ, or mic something over text, over an email. So I was like, you know what? One of my friends was like, hey, man, you should just make a video and put it on YouTube. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I had no intention, I didn't think it was going to turn into kind of what it has, but it's been really rewarding for, even to talk to somebody like you, I get to see all these studios, and I started working with studio designers and learning about acoustics. And it's like, now I feel like I can share this knowledge with someone else besides my wife and my 2 dogs.
Wow. So that's awesome. So studio you are in now is a studio that you have built, right?
Correct.
If any of you all aren't following Weezna, that he has built this studio, which was the garage
Correct.
to his house.
Yes.
So, and this is like the second one you have built, by the way.
Well, this is like the 7th studio I've built.
Well, okay, so this is the second. This is the
on
second,
YouTube.
Okay, this is the second. Okay, this is the second one on YouTube. If you've been following, then you kind of know the last studio that I'm kind of referring to. With this studio, it's become apparent that you know how to build. So are you a contractor by trade? Like,
so no, man. So when I met my wife, she was like, oh gosh, could we fix up the kitchen a little bit? And then that turned into, doing other work for other people. And then I would watch YouTube videos. If I didn't know how to do it, I was like, yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll watch a couple of YouTube videos. And then that turned into, remodeling other people's houses to have money to remodel our own house. And then 7 years later, we were like, you know what? Let's take a house and let's gut it down to like absolutely nothing, build it back up and put a studio actually in the house this time. Last time it was detached. So now it's actually, I can walk out of here right now and walk into my kitchen. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
So that's awesome. So the last studio that you have, the color scheme that you chose to use
it's a little different this time. It's a little
I
different.
think I might actually run a clip while I'm talking a little bit
Yeah,
about it, or what the old studio was. But what made you choose, what was that neon green, lime green? Like, what green was
Yeah.
that? What
Yeah, you could say neon, lime green, same thing. It was yeah, I wanted like super dark. Like I wanted to be a club is essentially what I wanted. So I created a club vibe. And then this time I was like, people were looking at, because we finished the house first and then I started working on the studio, and people were like, oh, we love the color and the look of the house. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to like kind of like try to get this house design in the studio. And then, then I started adding all the lights, and then it's like you can have this like homey vibe, or you can have like the club vibe, or you can have like the jazz lounge vibe. So I just like my options, I
Wow.
get bored.
Well, I definitely say now the color scheme of the new studio is very. I'm pretty sure you can tell the difference how rewarding
Yeah.
it has been.
I call it like mature club.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
definitely different than your last studio. Let's talk about kind of technicality stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who have started studios in their home studios. A lot of people are even want to build big studios or professional studios, such as the one that you have built. What are some of the things that you would want for them to consider before jumping on the journey, like building a whole professional studio, or
Yeah.
even a semi-professional studio type grade studio in their house or something like that? What type of tips or things would you want for them to consider before them just doing that?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing to mention is that, any studio, even a bedroom studio and a little 9 foot by 9 foot, could be a professional studio. I mean, I know producers who are working in probably the worst rooms ever, but hey, if you can, your room, your speakers, like almost anything can turn into, pro. I just happen to do this every day of my life. So I think you consider it more professional because I know what I want to do. I want to produce and I want to mix. And I do a little bit of, I mainly have a vocal booth is what it is. But yeah, probably number one, space. The bigger the control room you can have, the better the mixing environment. If you're more into recording, like tracking bands and stuff like that, then you probably want a bigger live room, and you don't need as big of a control room because, it's more into the recording part, where I'm more into the mixing part. So the control room is more the focus. So my control room is definitely much bigger than my vocal booth is. And if you're a mastering studio, it'd probably be a similar size, but number one is the size, the cubic footage you can have, length, width, and height. It all matters. Cubic footage is the key. Square footage doesn't really matter that much. Number two, we picked a spot. I mean, I wouldn't say we're in the middle of nowhere, but my next neighbor is probably 350 feet away from me. I have nobody in the backyard. I have nobody for another half a mile. So location is huge. I mean, I don't have to worry about, airplanes and traffic and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like the third thing was just, acoustic treatment is huge. Acoustic treatment allows you to hear what's coming out of the speakers and not what the room is doing. And you would not believe how much the room does to the sound of your mix. I mean, it's amazing
So
how almost destructive it is.
so would you say that the room and the treatment of the room is way more important than the gear that you may actually be using?
Yeah, I mean, pick your situation though. You're a recording studio and you're going to record drums and acoustic guitar, like an untreated room is probably pretty good. I mean, you could probably get away with a lot of that. when it comes to mixing, like you really want to be able to hear what's coming out of those speakers. I mean, the last studio that you're talking about, one
Yeah.
studio before that, I put just acoustic treatment on the ceiling. I go to start recording again, and the metronome comes on, and I had to stop the band. I'm like, hang on, guys, something's wrong with the metronome. It was so much duller in like the treble mid-range that I thought something was wrong with the metronome. And really, it was just the ceiling was doing so much to the sound that I thought something was wrong with the metronome I've been using for 4 years. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so let's stay on kind of gear and stuff for a second. You have a lot of gear.
Yeah.
That board that you have deconstructed and reconstructed, even the meters that you had put in, and that's what I had reached out to you. I said, yo, it's dope how you put that meter, how you actually hook that meter up to the Allen Heath, because I actually started playing with tablets similar to that for a different reason, not even for the studio. So when I saw that, I said, oh, that was smart.
Yeah.
So out of all the gear, out of all the construction, deconstruction, modifying, the pieces of gear that you have, what would you say is like your favorite piece of gear that you use every day? If not favorite piece of gear, what category of gear, like of things of gear that you would use the most, do you use the most?
So like when it comes to like recording, I probably use compressors the most. I feel like I can do I can change the sound the most to the way I want with a compressor. I really like the DBX stuff. Being like a DIY guy, like, I don't have $200,000 to throw in my studio. I had $20,000 to do the entire thing. So anything I wanted to do, it had to fit in that budget. So, I wasn't buying brand new this and that. Like, the tablet thing, $50 Amazon Fire tablet. The digital meters I put in, I spent a year looking for them, and I bought them used for like $100. But yeah, like the compressors, all DBX 160As and X's you can get for like $200 used. Huge. I love them. I have 7 of them. So I think that's huge. That's for recording, but for mixing, I think the interface, the converters you use, that is converting that analog to digital so your computer can read it. And then when it comes back out, I think that's pretty huge. So, spending money on a good converters. I'm using, I don't know if you can see it, but the SSL Alpha Links, huge, and it's clocked by an Apogee Big Ben. And I've used a lot of interfaces, and it was like when that plugged in, it was like, the earmuffs came off my ears a little bit. It wasn't like super drastic, but that little percentage gain, times 10 other things that do a little percentage of gain, in the end, it all helps out. So I would say my SSL converters and the DBX is got to be my 2 favorite things.
Yeah, my favorite piece about your board is definitely the center console that you actually made for it. Like, I feel like that's so clean, it's so efficient. In a workflow sense, I think it just makes sense to do what you did. Hopefully Allen and Heath, hopefully all these other brands take note of what you actually did to it.
Oh, dude,
I think that's very, very smart. Even if they make a configurable desk to where you could slide, and put blank rack spaces in or something like that, to where you can actually configure the desk to fit your workflow.
I love analog stuff, but let's be realistic. It's 2019. Like it's somewhat analog, but a big part of it is digital. So it's like, I wanted the soft tube console one up here and my little fader port and all my favorite EQs that I use. Like that, to me, that's really the stuff I touch, constantly. That's what I'm using. And I didn't want to have it on a rack, 4 feet away from me. I mean, that doesn't make, if an artist is coming in, they just spent, the last 3 weeks saving up to come to the studio. I don't want to be like, hang on, guys, I got to swing myself over here real quick to turn some knobs. Like, efficiency. Let's make it happen. Let's not kill the session with me fiddling with knobs. So I figured put everything up front. That's what matters. So, but yeah, that center section, I had to cut this mixing console literally in half, extend the 40-pin ribbon cables and all this crap it out. for me, I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to screw it up. Maybe I'll have to call somebody in to fix it, but I'm like, I'll pretty much try anything once. Can't say I would probably do this again, but I'm going to definitely give it a shot. So, I'm extremely happy the way it came out. It's
Okay, so
perfect for me.
let's talk about this. So you built that the studio in your house. Obviously, it's your investment. It's not a studio that you rarely go into. So you do this full time. You do this for a living. So
Yeah.
what does it look like, kind of on a daily basis in True Sound Studios? Like, how does it look? Because there's a lot of people who want to do that full time. Especially when you're factoring in a lot of people are looking for other spaces to put their studios in. A lot of people are trying to build studios elsewhere, like, other buildings and stuff like that, and not necessarily understanding from the business perspective of things how all of it works into conjunction with your workflow, the money you're paying for the space,
Yeah.
and that all determines how much you charge clients, what's your time worth, so how is kind of like the business ran for True Sound Studios?
Well, so, when I first started, it was MySpace was like the big thing. And I would message bands all the time, but, the turnover rate was probably 1 or 2 out of 100. So, I think a lot of people forget that your studio is only as good as the people who are going to know about your studio. So, for me right now, it's all about the YouTube channel, about Facebook, about Instagram, is a way I find people. But, other people forget about some of the other basics, like go to shows, go see shows on a Monday, Tuesday. Those are the guys who are really, those are the guys who are really dedicated. I mean, realistically, who shows up on a Tuesday or Wednesday? Like, not many people. So I always find those artists going to the shows, going to the places where the artists are, finding people like that too, because, the local clients are going to help you, somewhat make your money, pay your bills. And then, I work with a lot of people who don't even live in the United States. They find me because of YouTube or Instagram. So, you can't just like focus on social media, because you're only going to grasp so many people. I mean, there's a ton of studios out there. And like, why are they going to pick me? I got the same stuff as everybody else, but they might like the way I mix, or maybe they like the fact that after the song's done, I'm going to try to help them push their song. And a lot of studios won't do that. So you just got to find that little thing that makes you unique, and find the clients who are going to care about you, and, be loyal. And I think loyalty is a great thing, and giving people discounts and making sure you're helping them out the next time they come in. And if they refer a friend, give them and the friend a little discount. They're helping you sustain business, which is another reason why I put it in a house, because I mean, the overhead on a retail space somewhere else is going to be, you're gonna have to charge your clients more. And it's in my house. Well, man, I'm already paying the mortgage, so cost of running this studio in my house is going to be a lot less. So definitely things to think about.
And one thing that you said that I found to be true for myself is that I've been doing music for a very long time. I've been a music producer a very long time, longer than I have been an engineer. And and a lot of people knew that I was a music producer and I was a engineer, but it wasn't until I actually put myself out there in a sense of like locally, like telling people, hey, I really do this, that's when like the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
And so like what you said was very true. And it's because of social media, sometimes I think we neglect the local people. I think we think success is so much over the other end of a Instagram DM,
Yeah.
or on the other end of a YouTube video, and sometimes we neglect the people who literally down my street, there's probably about 5 people who sing or rap or something like that, or is a band that I don't even know about. But it's not
Yeah.
until you actually put yourself out there to where you can make yourself accessible to the people around you, and they actually help you, if not more than some people you can actually find online.
Yeah. So many people like push, like promote local, support your local businesses. And when you think about it in like that, like, yeah, I mean, they can go to the big, huge studio that's, 10 miles, 15 miles away, but you're going to pay more. You might not get that like personalized, that relationship. And secondly, or third, I care about those artists. I'm not saying that a commercial studio doesn't care, but they're not just clients anymore. They're people who, shoot me a picture at 11 o'clock at night because they're out with their friends at a bar and like, they're singing along to their song. They got to play it at a bar. Like they cared enough to send me that picture or that video. And, that's what really helps. It becomes like a friendship, which, some people say is not a good thing because you shouldn't mix business and friends, but I think everyone's different. I want to be friends with somebody. They're going to come here. They're going to feel comfortable. We're going to make good music. And, if they're in the end of the day, if they're happy, I did my job and I can still do it. I can keep going for another week, another month, another year. So
I think what you said was very true because it's definitely easier to market, to sell, to work with somebody who really knows you versus trying to do that to someone who does not know you from a can of
yeah,
paint. And the other thing that you said that I try to tell a lot of my friends is, a lot of people I come in contact with who aren't used to making music or aren't used to how the creation of music actually takes place and how it can take place in the most minimal space with the most minimal amount of things, that they think that they have to spend all of that money going to this big studio, and then the turnaround on their music is nowhere close to the money that they spent
yeah,
making that. And at the end of the day, especially when I hear oh, I'm going to work with a well-known producer or engineer, and I'm like, okay, cool. But the thing is that with that engineer, the engineer who has that name was getting paid by someone else who had a name or had a
yeah,
budget. Therefore, their music came out sounding the way that sounded. So just
yeah,
because you're going to work with them does not necessarily suggest that they're going to put the same amount of attention to detail and care for you as an artist that they did for that other person that actually made them get the name that they actually have now.
yeah. It's almost kind of like, food. Like you could go to a restaurant and pay $100 for a steak, and sure, that steak is probably gonna be pretty good. But shit, man, you can go ahead and throw a steak on the grill, and next thing you know, I'm like, I'm gonna pay you the $6 it costs to buy a cut of meat, and you get the same thing. And it's just finding those guys, those people who care enough and are essentially going to give you that same quality. It's just, yeah, we're not known to the whole world. Like nobody knows our names, and I don't really care. That's not why I do this. I don't care if people know who I am. I just care about they think that I do a good job. I make them happy. They make me happy, and we get to create great music. And at the end of the day, I think it's art, and that's kind of, I'm not looking to make $1 million this year or next year.
Right.
I just want to pay my bills. I want to do, the things I want to do on the side, and then that's it. I don't need to charge people $90 an hour.
Right.
I couldn't do that. I feel bad enough sometimes charging them what I do.
So let's talk about gear once again. Let's talk about
Yeah.
gear once again, because this is a question I have. The DAW that you use,
Sonar Platinum.
Sonar
Yeah.
Platinum now.
Yeah.
What made you use Sonar out of every DAW? What made you? I'm just a little interested in the fact that you do use Sonar. So what has you? Some people probably don't even know what we're talking about.
Oh, people are like see a picture like, oh, that's Pro Tools.
Some
Right?
people probably don't even know. Yeah. So
Yeah,
what makes you use Sonar? I'm really interested in this.
oh, man, it's not even that good of a story, but so like, I don't know, probably 15, 16 years ago, I wanted to get into computer recording. So I had little digital mixers that would mix and record all into one machine. So you didn't have to have a computer. But then I wanted to get into that, and I was sold Pro Tools at a Guitar Center. Well, man, Pro Tools didn't, at least I didn't know what a plugin was at the time, and I didn't see those EQ and compression modules that were already built into Pro Tools. Not to mention, I had a PC at that time, and it wasn't working. So I came back and I tried to return it, and they were like, "Oh, there's a 400% restocking fee." So I was like, "Whatever, all right." So they sold me Sonar Platinum. They're like, "Yeah," or Sonar Cakewalk, whatever it was, 4.0 or whatever, and because it had the EQ and the compressor plugins on it. So I was like, oh, that's what I wanted. And I got really good at that. And then I upgraded and I got really good at that. And I just never switched because I never wanted to learn a new DAW. That was like the reason. There isn't like days where I think about switching to Cubase or this or that or Presonus Studio One. Like people talk about that all the time, but I got a brand new studio. I got a brand new room. I got a lot of new gear. I got a new setup. I don't also want to learn a new DAW. I don't necessarily know if I'll ever switch, but that's my not exciting story.
The reason why I asked is because I actually used Sonar starting off for a couple of years. I
Okay.
remember it's when I first started getting into production, and someone had bought me like a Eterol MIDI keyboard, like
I had
a
one of those too.
yeah, like one of those, and it came with the free version of Sonar.
Yeah.
So I was using that for a very long time, and then I ended up switching over. Like I said at the time, I just had a Cubase, just had a PC at the time, so I switched over to Cubase at
Okay.
the time. And I'm still with Cubase to this day, so I can kind of relate to you in some sense of not switching, especially when business is starting to go good and you're kind of in a flow of music. And to be honest with me, for me not to switch is kind of because of the business. So many people depend on their music sounding a certain way. And I
Yeah.
just know now, especially with Cubase is a monster. I mean, and the things that they're doing now are ridiculous. And for me to switch to a new DAW, I don't know if I can get, close to that sound. Well, I can, but not soon enough as, I could if I just were to stay with my DAW now.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the whole thinking thing. Like, if I were to switch a DAW, I'd have to like think about the new shortcuts and think about where this was and think about how that. Like right now, I just work. I don't even think about any. It's like I'm listening. Like I'm not thinking about where did they put bounce the clips in this new program. Like, you just work. Like, I mean, I can't say that I know every DAW and I know everyone is similar, but it is just software. I mean, being a creative producer who knows how to make a beat come together and make it exciting and make it what the artist wants. I mean, isn't that what it's really about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could be producing on an old MPC. If it's still relevant, you can still do that same thing. Hey man, keep doing that. Like switching just means more time and more countless nights trying to figure out why don't my plugins show up here? And, how do I route this to that? It's just, just work. People are like, people ask me all the time, I'm going to switch to this DAW. And I'm like, man, just stick with what you got and just get good at it. It's going to get you to the finish line quicker than switching 50 times, So that's at least my opinion.
So with all the changes that are going on in your studio, and as of right now, the studio is what percentage of complete you think the studio is right now?
I would say like the control room is probably 95% done. So I mean, it's as close. That's why I started doing a few projects. I'm kind of calling them test projects, just so I can hear the room, see how it responds. Is very different from the last studio. But yeah, so the vocal booth, that is the thing it's right now. It's the storage room for my stuff that. But yeah, I mean, so it's really close. I'm installing something called a ventilator, which a lot of people don't know about. When you lock yourself in these super airtight rooms, you don't get that fresh air anymore because you're not going to open windows, you're not going to open doors. So this just helps bring some fresh air in. So I'll starve for oxygen here, and all of a sudden all my tracks come out a little loopy.
So out of all the construction that you have done to the studio now, what was the hardest part? I saw one picture that what was it, the baffle boxes for the air duct,
Yeah,
but
I would.
what would you say is the hardest thing that you kind of?
So up there, like definitely those baffle boxes were a nightmare. Like so much work, so much effort, so much design work. Even just then lifting them 10 feet into the air was, and then mounting them and then hooking up the unit. I mean, that was huge. That was a monster. That probably took me a week to build all four of those. You know,
Wow.
to make it all fit in there, make it thick enough that it wasn't going to bleed sound, and designing, and oh gosh, that was terrible. And then probably the other thing was building the acoustic treatment. I mean, I've never done more math. Last time I did this much math is when I was in high school, and it was a lot. It was intense. So definitely the baffle boxes, just because I cut 8-inch holes in my ceiling in these
Yeah.
perfect soundproof boxes. I cut an 8-inch hole for the duct, and then now you got to stop that, and so it was really important that I didn't just put 2 8-inch holes in the control room, 8-inch holes in the vocal booth. And I was like, yeah, the sound can go out of there. So that was huge.
Wow. So so are there any other major projects that you're doing other than the studio? Because here's the question
Yeah.
I had is like the studio obviously takes some time to do. So
Oh yeah.
I was wondering like how much of effect did actually building the studio actually affect the business of your studio? And, the time frame that you took off. How did that actually affect like your studio and your work that you do? Do you have like a mobile rig that you kind of like still did sessions or stuff, or you just called it quits for all these months?
I cut it like mid-December in 2017. So
Jeez.
yeah, so right before
Ooh.
2018. So, but then I gutted this 3,000 square foot house. I mean, no plumbing, no electrical, no heating, no insulation, no drywall, no, took out most of the doors and windows. I mean, it was middle of winter, and it was just holes. You just look out and see the snow. So I had to like get the house together first. So, I have permits, and so you got to deal with the town, and even just getting the permits took 3.5 months. So it was just like so much, to do. So I had to get the house first so we could live and, have a kitchen and bathrooms. I mean, we were celebrating the first time we got running water, and you have to fill up a bucket and pour it in the toilet. Like all those things, plumbing, and then the heating and insulation, drywall and flooring. And then after that was good enough, then my wife was like, all right, you really need to start in the studio. So, I was closed for like a year and a half. So yeah, I mean, obviously it affects the business, local clients. I told them, just go find another studio. Like if you want to come back, hey, that's amazing. But, it's
Wow.
going to take me some time. So, go do what you got to do. Like, I don't want to stop you as an artist. Um, and then all the clients I work with internationally, I was like, here's some good guys who I know do good stuff. Work with them. If you want to come back, when I'm done, hey, I would love that. Otherwise, I get it. I did this knowingly. So, I gotta, I gotta take responsibility for what I did. So,
Right.
you know, but then at the same time, I started documenting this whole build process, and I feel
Right.
like it like almost helped. So, I mean, the first day when I posted a couple days ago that I was mixing in here, I got I screenshot on my phone because I couldn't believe it was like 23 mix requests. I was like, guys, the studio isn't even open yet officially. So
Yes, it is.
yeah, to everybody else, it's open. Hey man, we're ready. We're standing outside your door. So
Wow.
yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll see in the next couple months what really happens. But I guess the whole loyalty thing and me, helping people out, truly helping them out more than
Right.
just mixing, clearly was enough for them to want to come back and couldn't wait. So yeah.
So I got one more little technical question, and it's
Yeah.
about those tablets. So for everybody who doesn't know, those tablets right there, and he's pointing to them. Matter of fact, can you explain to everybody what that actually is? So that's actually a tablet. That's not a manufacturer from from any music company. That is a tablet. So can you explain to everybody? Yeah.
Yeah, like, this is an Amazon Fire tablet. I think it's the 7-inch. And not all I did, but so I got a couple apps. This one I really like. This is a Spectra. What does that say? Spectra View Analyzer. And you run this app, and what I found out is that if through the mic connection on here, so every tablet, phone, whatever has a mic connection. Well, I could take that signal, and the app has to be able to then bypass the microphone that's built into the tablet and then use the signal you're giving it from that mic connection, just like I'm using right now, my Apple earbuds. And I converted that using a direct box, a DI box, and then I'm running it off of a couple aux sends on the mixing console. So essentially, I can take my mix, like if I pull up, let's see, iTunes here real quick. What I can do is, if I play a song, you can see it's coming up on the screen here. So if I mute it, it goes away. And what I can do is I can send any signal that I want to this, and it literally is not running off the microphone. Like if it was running off the mic, when I mute this, you would see signal. So I have a video on YouTube about how I did this. Yeah. I think I call it the $83 DIY frequency analyzer, and it just allows you to take any signal. I mean, you don't have to have a mixing console to do this. You can just run this off of a headphone signal from your interface, which is a great way to do it. So you can just split your output from your speakers, or just use your headphone output to run into the tablet, and it's giving you a visual readout of of your audio. It's telling you the hot spots are in red and the yellow is not as hot, and it's kind of giving you like a frequency analyzer. It's amazing for mix, because if you see big blobs of red, that particular band of frequencies is really hot. And being that DIY guy that I am, I was like, I want to do this, and I want to build them into my mixing console so that I can just sit here, have two of them running, and be able to.
So for everybody who else hasn't followed, he built that whole, matter of fact, to be honest with you, he built the whole desk, in other words. Yeah. But that whole top part of the desk he built. Wow, see, and this, y'all just got a whole shot of the studio too. Yeah.
So yeah.
So this take us through some of your studio now that you're up. You got your phone out.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna take this off of this tripod. And this is make sure I don't. Okay, let's see here. So I don't think I can flip the camera on this.
That's cool.
So this is 24 channels right here on this side of the console. This is all my tracking. So if I was gonna mic up a drum kit, it would come up here. And then all my stereo stuff like that, if I'm going to, tracking whatever it is. And then I built this meter bridge. This is some good old fashioned 1x2 and 1x3 pine. Got these TOA meters. It's a LED metering system, so I don't have to use the old VUs. Right up front here, this is just another piece of pine. It's a 1x6 pine. It's rounded the front edge off and wrapped some vinyl around it. So I got my custom armrest going on. And then over here, then we got the built-in tablets. And then this center section right here, this is the control. I built some mic movers that actually, from here, I can move a microphone in the other room for like amps and guitars and stuff like that. So this is all the controls for this. I can bypass my subwoofer and the EQ for that. Got some ins and outs, so I can just plug direct into the mixing console and stuff like that. This is my little Bluetooth speaker I mix out of. So it sits right up here.
Wait, you mix
Um,
out of a Bluetooth speaker too?
yeah. So I got this little speaker selector here. It's 5 different speakers. So this is one of them that I mix out of. It's great. I mean, it's that like terrible little speaker that it has no bass to it.
That's smart.
Yeah, and then I got some like I got these Polk Audio speakers that are just like $100 home theater speakers, and I got my main Dyn Audios. That's probably what I mix out of most of the time. And then those are speakers that I built, even though they have a Dyn Audio logo on them. They're not Dyn Audio, but those are dual eights. Those I got a ton of bass to them. They're just really great. You actually need to like stand pretty far back to really get the full effect of those speakers. But and then kind of up front here, if I can see what I'm doing, I got the Personas fader port, just one little channel, soft tube console one, which I friggin' love this thing. An actual analog bus compressor. These are my interfaces, all 3 of these. 8 API EQs, which is like probably another child to me. And then we got the bus section over here. So everything that comes from these 16 channels of summing, so this all comes back from the DAW, runs through more of the busing, which is connected to these 8 API EQs, and then more of the sustain metering over here. And that's like a rough idea of how I use the entire mixing console, because I'm not like sitting here mixing tracks analog anymore. I mean, that if a band wants to book a couple weeks here, great, then I'll mix on the console. But otherwise I'm mixing 3-4 songs a day, and people are getting back to me a week later on the changes they want, and I can't recall stuff. So yeah, that's like a quick overview of this. I got the dual monitors. This is how my DAW comes up and up on there, and then the 2 up top there is for the security system, because I'm in a soundproof box. Some car could blow up in the front of my house and I would have no idea. So
Wow.
Yeah.
well, listen. I think everybody's greatly appreciative of the studio, especially because this is probably going to be like one of the first showings of kind of like the studio in this form.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is number one.
I mean, maybe if you follow him on Instagram, you'll get it way before YouTube.
Yeah,
way before YouTube. So I'm gonna try to beat you to the punch on this one.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I'm like 7 videos deep. I just can't. I could, every day it's like wake up in the morning, make breakfast, and just work every single second, and then I just crash, and I'm like, man, I got 7 YouTube videos to edit, and Instagram's just so easy. Take a picture, post. It's just like the YouTube videos, man, they just take me time, and I just don't have the time right now.
Well, you're really innovative, like how you did the even the microphone that you like choose to use for your videos, like how you made the cordless mic and stuff. I'm just like,
and I'm just like, every day my brain's just always thinking, it's like, what's a new way to fix this problem. It's just, it's fun. It's just fun. So it's been a real joy. And I feel like we have to do this again, and we should go. I have so many tips on if you are a bedroom producer, your bedroom music maker, you're recording, whatever. There's so many things that I see people doing not correctly, or could fix their room without spending any money. I see people putting speakers on walls, or it's not parallel, and just so many different things that I think can help people out without spending money. Because I understand, money doesn't grow on trees, and it's not their full. It's most people, it's a hobby. Like, they're just doing it for fun, but they want better. Everyone wants more. You want better, and so maybe that's another thing we can do. Go ahead.
For sure. Listen, man, listen.
You could talk for hours.
You don't even know. You don't even know. So, man, listen, I thank you for getting on. So where can you tell everybody where they can find you at and where they can follow you?
Yeah. So on YouTube, just simply search True Sound Studios. Find that old neon green and black and white logo. Instagram at True Sound Studios. Those are like the two things I post on as much as possible. I am on Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat. Those are, you could say those aren't my priority, but you can definitely find stuff on there. I definitely try to post on all. Try to not play favorites too much, but definitely Instagram and YouTube.
Well, Weezna, look, I thank you for getting on. For everybody else, I'll make sure that all of his information and all of the links are in the description below, so you can definitely check him out. And I will see everybody next video. All right.